So I'm going to be spending just a couple minutes here talking about sort of what we're seeking to get out of this, and particularly to highlight some of the handouts that are available up here, as well as the what's on the Google Drive and the thumb drive that's being passed around. So the goal for this boot camp is really to expose participants to the basics of building agent-based models of AnyLogic, to give some sense as to the capabilities, the strengths, and the weaknesses associated with agent-based modeling. I'm not here to sell the technique nor the software, and it's my goal to help shed light on some of the very substantive trade-offs that come up in the context of reasoning through what approaches are best for a given problem in health or health care, with the full set of techniques in the full set of software that are available to us. I am interested in providing a lot of hands-on training to you so that you're comfortable running, understanding, and building up models within this particular platform, AnyLogic. But I'll try to give my unbiased view as someone who's used about 5 different agent-based modeling platforms as to what the real trade-offs are between them. I cannot, within the time afforded to us, do a truly comprehensive survey of an agent-based modeling in general, or a sort of theoretic or conceptual grounding for all the motivations that encourage it, or the rich sort of conceptual underpinnings of the field. While I will, at a brief level, review the trade-offs between AnyLogic and other ABM platforms, I'm not going to be able to spend more than a single lecture on it, and I'd encourage those who are interested in a more fulsome discussion to talk with me about seeing some example models that we've built in multiple platforms. And we're not going to be able to create, a full room full of fully proficient agent-based modelers, but we'll get you a long way to that, I think, in terms of exposing you to a lot of the basics of building up these models, some of the ways of thinking about them, and some of the techniques you'll use to address a given health problem. Within the course of this boot camp, we've lent it that name because it's going to share some features with the boot camps that are used in the military. It's going to be intense. There's going to be long hours, and we're asking of all participants a willingness to push their comfort zone a little bit. There's hopefully going to be a sense of camaraderie that comes out of this, that we're all in this together, including myself. And sometimes going to be a little bit aggressive as an instructor, not in a physical sense, but in the sense of getting you to try some things which will be initially unfamiliar with you. We're certainly going to be exercising your finger and brain muscles, even if I'm not going to ask you to get down and do 20 push-ups at the beginning of each day. And hopefully you'll look back at this with a sense of accomplishment and new appreciation for what you're capable of. I've provided, as far as resources, a preliminary schedule for the boot camp. Those of you who have gone to Google Drive or have found the USB drive that's circulating will be able to find that schedule there. This is a preliminary schedule. It's subject to modification based on the interests of the students, based on observations on how things are going. But it'll give you some sense of where we're headed within this boot camp. I'd highlight particularly the occurrence of hands-on plenary lectures. We're going to be making a lot of lectures full of little exercises. There will be comparatively few that involve you sitting back and listening to me. For the most part, you'll be working alongside me to build up models, to run them, and to gain insight. And I'd encourage everyone, regardless of background, to follow along in that process, because it's a key element of the learning within this boot camp. There'll also be some discussion periods for questions and more advanced requests, and at the end of each day, there's some optional Java tutorials. Breaks are not explicitly indicated in the schedule, but we'll try to schedule them after long periods of coverage. I would ask people to please come forward and suggest break times because I've been known to go 4.5 hours on a stint without breaking, to the great detriment of those in the audience. So sometimes I get very involved in my teaching, perhaps more so than it is safe. And please come forward and just let me know if a break would be advised. I'd be happy to oblige. Pre-Esri will also be trying to help out in this regard, trying to rein me in where appropriate, because my enthusiasm, if not contagious, at least it sometimes drives me to push a little too hard. I've tried to color code material according to the level of the material, so you could, kind of what components are likely to be more accessible and what things are likely to be more demanding. And the schedule, as I noted, is going to evolve over the course of the boot camp as needs come up. So we're going to be selectively highlighting material from a broader set of topics. And if you have particular interest that you don't see reflected in the schedule, I would suggest that you first of all go look to see if in the example slides I provided, there might be some material that speaks to your interests. I provided a much larger set of example lecture slides that I'm going to be able to cover. There's material in there on all sorts of topics that I don't currently have reflected in the schedule. And if one of them strikes your fancy, let me know, because we do have some flexible time schedule, particularly in the last day, to hit items of student interest. I also might be able to weave it into other discussions, okay? So please do check out those lecture slides. I'm going to be making recordings of this boot camp. You'll see me occasionally switch to a little program like this, which is going to be recording the lectures here, and I'll be trying to post them to a YouTube playlist for this boot camp by the evening. And that will afford you a chance to go back on some of the material, reflect on what you've heard, and potentially get clarification on issues that weren't clear the first time. We had real problems with audio the last time that I gave this boot camp out in UCLA. That was last week. And if you encounter any points that require feedback as far as quality, particularly in the audio-visual front, please let me know. That's a really high priority for me. And, oh yes, a very important point. So I'm going to be walking around here with a device, this is learning from the UCLA bootcamp, which records my voice wherever I am in the room. So hopefully it won't be so finicky as far as sort of my distance from the computer. But this won't be able to pick up student questions that well. So please, if you can, encourage me to repeat questions, particularly in a room this large, because it may help make sure that those who listen to the videos are clear about what's being asked when they hear my answer. A couple elements of IT essentials. So the machines in this classroom are installed with the latest AnyLogic version. I think it's 7.0.3. And I would encourage you to think about using those machines for the exercises. If you do have a laptop, that's great, but try to make sure that you're using AnyLogic 7 with that. And Pre-Esri could help you if any of you have difficulties with this. I think most of you have seen these credentials on the board. They're located behind me and on the other board there. And if you haven't already done so, I'd ask you to log into these to a machine if you're going to be using it. Now, once you log in, it's important that you secure access to the materials that we're going to be covering. This boot camp is going to proceed at a quick pace, starting in another 20 minutes or so, and we're going to be using material that's being provided to you from the get-go. And it's very important you have quick access to example models, particularly, and perhaps optionally slides. So once you're on the machine, it's important that you either go to a Google Drive location that would have been sent to you by Maria, I think. Is that right? Earlier today, or you get a hold of the USB drive that's circulating so that you copy the contents of that to your desktop of your machine. You could also copy them to my documents, I'm told. This material, you'll refer back to it if you want to keep it in a familiar place. Your files, as I understand it from the IT folks, they're going to be stored on that particular machine. So if you're going to be coming in for Success of the Days of the boot camp, which of course I'd encourage, you should try to log back into that particular machine. You might want to take note of it because the machines have a certain similarity in appearance. The numbers of the machines are written on the front side of the monitors in case they're not on the opposite side. They may also be on the main CPU units. In any case, if you're going to come back and you want access to your particular files, I'd suggest that you make a note of what machine you're using. And finally, for those of you who do have a laptop, there's the NCUS guest. Actually, it should be with an apostrophe in there, hyphen, excuse me, that you can log into to secure access to the web. Okay, so what resources are provided to you as part of this? Well, two of them are provided to you as part of the written materials, and that's the preliminary schedule and the background materials. I would highlight the background materials particularly because they include a reference to the YouTube playlist. So there's going to be a playlist for this boot camp, which is going to start accumulating lectures later this afternoon. And there's also a YouTube channel which I maintain with 1,200 extra videos, most of which are directly relevant. So if you folks want reference material either from recorded lectures here or from general sort of tutorials on using AnyLogic, be sure to refer to those resources. I've also provided you a link to a bootcamp community site where people can raise questions, get clarification. This site is open to other people who've gone through my boot camps, and it's just launched. And I'd encourage you to go there to participate either during the boot camp or afterwards. I'm on there answering questions, as are my TAs. I've further provided a reference card for you for very common AnyLogic functions. We're going to use these a lot within the context of this boot camp. We're going to need to find out to how many other agents a given agent is connected, or we're going to have to find out the ways in which we could find out what the total population size is for a model. And this will provide you sort of an easy reference point to remember how to do this in AnyLogic. Most of my lectures, I'll be walking you through that step by step. You'll have a chance to see exactly what I'm doing. But when you're building models yourself, this might come in handy. We also have an outline for how to perform common AnyLogic tasks. And finally, there's a set of materials on sort of indications, system science approaches might be advised for a given problem. Okay? So these materials are available to you through those online materials and on that USB drive, and please try to have them handy for the next 4 days. Yes?
For the UNC and Ren people, if before you leave I get an email
Great.
address for you, then I can send you that Google Drive link so that you can access these from home and not just from
Right.
tomorrow.
And that's a very good point, because also on the Google Drive is, in fact, license information. So if you do want to install AnyLogic on a laptop or at home, there's information on how you can download it, install it, and activate it through November, early November, I understand. So you could give it a period of trial use. That is AnyLogic Professional, which is the sort of top-end version that they have. For the most part, we won't be heavily relying on those resources, so the education version should be fine for 98% of the material. Okay, but please be aware that there's some license information also on here on the Google Drive that will let you let you install it elsewhere. So license information. Okay. Any questions before we dive in to our first little use of AnyLogic? Yes, Sid.
Coming from a pretty much background on agent-based modeling, why haven't you used AnyLogic and not Commodity?
It's a good question. So I've chosen AnyLogic for a number of reasons, but I've done so after a fairly thorough evaluation of other platforms. I've now been using directly 5 or so agent-based modeling platforms over the years. I've used some very heavily, including Repast, which is a very, very popular platform. Others I've used enough to sort of evaluate their match to my needs. And we also have an agent-based modeling platform of our own that we've created in our research laboratory that we use. I teach AnyLogic because AnyLogic is most responsive to our needs, and I would argue, I would advance that for many of those in the health and healthcare areas, it offers a fairly formidable set of combination of strengths. It's not without its weaknesses, but notable strengths for AnyLogic include, number one, a fairly accessible interface for those who lack strong computational science training, those who are not from computer science background, those who are not from a strong, computationally strong engineering background, to gain access to the capacity to build and use and run agent-based models. For us, that's key. And we work in large interdisciplinary teams of stakeholders where most of the people I'm working with are not computer scientists. They are clinicians. They are public health officers. They are people who are biostatisticians in background, epidemiologists. And it's important to me that the models that we build be transparent to those people, that I can actually show those people something about the logic of the model rather than pages of Java code or C++ code, and that they can actually appreciate what I'm saying. And those have advanced our projects materially. The ability to sort of show our model to someone, the head of TB control, for example, in our province, and have him say, well, you know, it's pretty good, but I think you're missing a state. I think you're missing something here, and there should really be a transition from this to this. That's empowering. Because it means that the oversights in our model will get noticed more quickly, and our models can be advanced more rapidly. So the fact that it's graphical, and mostly what we say in computer science, declarative. You specify more of the what you want to capture when it comes to state charts, when it comes to events, and less demanding in terms of the amount of programming. That is very helpful for this communication, for using the model as a boundary object where people from disparate backgrounds can jointly discuss it, understand it, and advance it as a joint enterprise, and so that they feel a sense of ownership and buy-in. A second reason we use AnyLogic is going to be also substantively covered within this boot camp, which is the creation of its ability to create hybrid models. We will see in this model, in the course of the boot camp, models which combine system dynamics, agent-based modeling, and discrete event simulation, not merely in the same modeling project, but in the same model, under the same roof. Single model, different areas of it are covered in each of those techniques. And this is not for demonstration. It's because each of those techniques is a really good fit for situations exhibiting certain characteristics. And rather than having to choose ahead of time in which technique we want to build the model and then getting locked into that technique, AnyLogic affords us the ability to nimbly build up areas of our model in one technique and switch to another where required. It lets us first do something at system dynamics in a broad say stock and flow model, and then take certain parts of the stock and flow model and turn it into an agent-based model without needing to, you know, put behind us that project and start an entirely new project. So that's another attraction. A third attraction is it fits in very well in the broader ecosystem of Java support. And so we can make use of common statistics libraries, for example, the Apache Statistics Library, or animation libraries that work with Java, like D3 through certain interfaces. And this is something like Prefuse. So this is another substantive advantage. We'll be talking in the latter parts of the boot camp, probably the last day, about some of the material trade-offs that apply between the techniques. And I'd prefer to keep my detailed discussion of some of those trade-offs till then, because right now it's a lot of words and maybe it doesn't have a lot of concrete experience. But I think by the end of the boot camp, you'll be able to much better understand some of the strengths and, indeed, some of the weaknesses associated with it. Is that helpful? Okay. Okay, any other questions? Great question. Okay. So with your leave then, I think I will exit out of this and